There are those who dream of a better world. Those who strive to climb higher, swim deeper, and venture further than the rest. We call them DaVincis. We marvel at their genius and are awed by their unbreakable spirit. Here they come. Stand back and watch as they inspire the human race by living a DaVinci life.
Hey guys, this is Rusty Johnson. Welcome to A DaVinci Life. Today's guest, freestyle motocross rider, but not just any. Robbie Maddison we have today. Now Robbie Maddison is, how can I put it, is today's Evel Knievel. You've seen him on ESPN, jumping football fields, jumping up on Las Vegas buildings, Olympic ski jumps. You'll even see this guy surfing. Yeah, surfing on his bike. And he's just not some madman. At first I thought he was. When I first saw him, he was doing this gigantic Olympic ski jump, but on his bike. I said, this guy's gotta be nuts. Then I saw the things that he was doing, and yeah, they're nuts. But he's so calculated in what he does. He's so professional in what he does. He definitely is the best of the best. But he does so much. I will guarantee you his x-rays look worse than Evel Knievel's with all the damage that he's done on some of his faults. And we talk about that too. We talk about his injuries, particularly head injuries that can really affect people, even bring them into addiction. And he's doing some fantastic things on being a great public service to people who need it. Also discussed DMT. He said that when he was trying to figure out if he could do the Las Vegas jump, it was actually using DMT that brought him back to his childhood, got him through some traumas and stuff, and kind of gave him the calculations to let him know that he could do the jump. So fantastic conversation, fascinating conversation. So check it out. Robbie Maddison, a man who's broke more records than a Christian mom.
Hey, what's up, Rusty?
Not much, buddy. How's it going, man?
Yeah, pretty good. My morning got a little bit delayed because the winds were up. We jumped out a hot air balloon, and the winds are up and blew us like a long way from where we want to land. So I had to, it delayed my morning.
You guys are good.
But hopefully this is all right. I was planning to be in my office, but I'm still about 5 miles away.
That's all right. Did you want to wait? I'm in no rush. If you got the time, we can wait till you get to the office.
Yeah, I should be there. Like I'd say maybe probably 5 miles in is the way the crow flies, but I got to go around the lake. So
Hit me an email just like when you're ready, then we'll go from there. No problem.
okay, bud. It'll be about 10 minutes.
Perfect, pal. All right, pal.
Thanks, bud. See ya.
No problem.
What's up, Rusty?
What's up, Robbie? How you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing really good.
Well, how was your morning?
It was awesome. It was like first time I've jumped without the helmet on today, because I wanted to have my face visible, because I went live on my Instagram. I jumped off holding the camera live, so we're at 5,500 feet. So
I feel like a lazy piece of shit right about now for my morning.
we did that. I just got some diesel getting delivered here, and then we're gonna fire up the skid steer, and I got a bunch of people coming over to ride dirt bikes with me this morning.
Nice, man.
That's cool. But yeah, man, lots going on. It's good. I kind of got a new lease on life, and went through some shit that we all go through, like loss of loved ones and stuff like that. Kind of derailed me for a while and killed the spirit. My family, like my parents, split up, and just a whole bunch of shit went on. I had surgery. My body was letting me down, and now I'm kind of like, I got some really exciting new projects going on. Some like working on a new invention, and it's going to be great. So I'm super stoked.
Fantastic, man. God, you're an absolute beast on a motorcycle. The first video I ever saw of you is when you took off in the ski jump. And I said, this guy is nuts, man. Then I watched more of the things you did, and the more I watched, the more I realized that it's not that. You're not nuts. You know exactly what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have a little bit of nuts in you too, but this is not a game to you. This is pro, man.
Yeah.
You got it going on, man. Now, I'm sure this is not something that when you're like 25, 30 years old, you decided to start to do. When did you start just wanting to jump things?
I wanted to jump things right from a young age. I was always into bicycles and motorbikes. Like my dad had a motorbike when I was a little kid, so I naturally liked him because my dad had one. I used to love sitting on the front of it and going for rides up and down the street and into the bush and stuff. And then there was another little kid down the street who had one. And that's really when I was like, oh man, like there's a kid my size on a bike. So I was like blown away. I used to love all the cartoons and stuff like that had motorcycles in them. And I remember when I was really young, I saw on the local news there was a local motocross track, and there's a bunch of little kids on like the Yamaha PW50, and they're riding around on this track, and I was just like, every time I look at the PW50, still to this day, I still get that same feeling I got when I saw it when I was that younger kid, and I remember just like, I was like, I just want to do that, I want to ride a motorcycle. So it was such a overwhelming like kind of feeling that I got that was inspiring and just something fresh and new and exciting, and so that's really like was my introduction to bikes, like and when I fell in love at that age. And then fortunately enough, I know there's a lot of kids who love motorcycles and they have parents that like are really dead against it and don't give them to them their whole lives, and I've met those guys that are very talented motorcycle riders that didn't have the opportunity that I had. So I'm very blessed that my parents gave me the opportunity to have motorcycles and ride and, harness my skills and work on my craft. And, I think no matter what you do, if you do it all the time and you just, you get your million hours kind of locked up, I think you become an expert at it. And so it's like, I tell people that all the time, like whatever you want to be great at, just do it all the time and you'll become amazing at it. And then you'll be able to figure out a way to make it your life and make it your job. So, I've done my homework. I've done ridden bikes since I was 4 years old. And when I was a little bit older, I was into racing, and I remember seeing Evel Knievel and Robbie Knievel special on TV when Robbie jumped the Caesar's Palace fountains. And that kind of sent a shiver up my spine. And I didn't realize at that point it meant that I was going to follow in this, but it definitely inspired me so much. I mean, I wanted to be that guy on that motorcycle. And I remember growing up at school and teachers saying, what do you want to be when you're a rider? And I used to fantasize about this life. And now I think about it, it's the life I have now. It's crazy. Yeah. I had that vision as a kid. The end goal was already kind of like the vision I had. And I think I never thought to myself I wasn't worthy of it. I've always wanted that and focused on, and there's obviously a big long period in my life where I thought maybe it wasn't going to happen, and there was a period where I gave up on it and became an electrician, and I let go of the dream. And then I kind of had some like morale killers along the way where just certain things in life didn't work out, and the path wasn't easy, that's for sure. It's not like I had this easy path. I had to make it happen, had to dig deep, but I became an electrician, and during working as an electrician, that competitive nature in me came out, and I was working so many hours. I got really sick. I got meningitis, encephalitis. I was actually on my deathbed, and it was at that point I realized I want to follow this dream I had as a kid. I want to see if it can become true. So I focused on it, and it's become true.
What was the first stunt you did?
First stunt I did was I had a piece of wood and some bricks, and I put the wood on the bricks, and I was jumping over my cousins when they were like 8 years old. I was seeing how many of my cousins I could jump.
That sounds right, because didn't you break your first motorcycle in half by the time you were 5 years old?
I did. Yeah, I was actually looking at that photograph the other day. I broke the automatic transmission and bent the frame.
Wow. Yeah, we used to do that more on BMX bikes. My mother would not let me. I was one of those guys. My mother would not let me have a motorcycle. I bought one behind her back, and then I kept it in the backyard. And of course, as soon as I kicked it on, she heard it, and out the door it went. But I got her back, so I later just started collecting eagles and cobras and vipers. She let me do that, but wouldn't let me get a motorcycle.
Wow.
Figure that out. But we used to, on BMX, we would do the cinder blocks and the plywood, and then there's always one neighbor that'd be like, you try it first, man. And get him. Were you the one that tried it first?
Yeah.
I figured so.
Yeah, I was and I was building them. We had all the big jumps were set up in my parents' yard, and we lived we lived halfway down this hill, so you could like come from the top of the hill, and by the time you got to my house, you had plenty of speed, and we'd launch these big jumps, and they didn't always work out good. I remember one kid, he opened up his forehead all the way down here, and he went off to I think he came back to school like a week later with these stitches all the way down his forehead, and this big line there. So he's probably still got that scar today to remind him of when he hung out with me.
My last jump was I endoed, flipped over, did the scorpion, where your feet hit the back of your head, knocked the wind out of me, and I'm like, screw this shit, man.
Yeah, I'm good at that one too. I've done that a lot of times.
Did you go from competing, say, in the X Games before you did stunts, or were you doing more of the major stunts and then went to X Games? How did that progress?
I being an electrician, I kind of got into trying to do the freestyle motocross to go towards the X Games route. And so I was working on the freestyle motocross, and at the same time, I was hitting some pretty big jumps. And then the opportunity came up with the Crusty Demons, and I was actually like doing doing extreme like freestyle motocross, doing backflips and all that kind of stuff. I went in the Summer X Games, it's called the Planet X Summer Games. And I won that. I did like 13 backflips over the day. And that was the first time I'd ever done a backflip on a big ramp. So that's why every time I went on the course, I had the opportunity. I did a backflip. And that's really what put me on the map. I got invited to international events right after that. And then not long after that, I went and set a world record for the longest jump on a motorcycle. Longest jump on a 250, and I did the longest trick. The longest trick on a motorcycle is 246 feet. And then, after I did that night of world records with the Crusty Demons, I realized that I wanted to get the overall world record. I mean, just on the night, though, it wasn't my job to do that, so I had to stay in my lane. But soon after that, I went out and went for the overall world record, and then jumped on and off the building there in Las Vegas.
That was amazing.
That kind of really put my name on the map, and then I guess the phone started ringing and getting requests to be involved in movies and do stunts for people like James Bond and Vin Diesel and stuff like that.
Right, yeah. So you were stunt driver for the movie Skyfall as well as Triple X, right?
Yeah, exactly. Skyfall, Triple X, and the last one was Venom. I did Venom as well.
Oh, nice. How do you like that job compared to the stunts and the freestyle? It's I work in TV, so I know it's a lot of it is hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
What was your experience?
I probably would have really been bad at it if I had started when I was younger. But I have the patience now. I think my mindset's changed a lot. I'm really like kind of just in the moment and appreciate small things. So I can get enjoyment. I don't get bored. I get enjoyment out of watching the smallest acts. So I mean, I think anything's incredible. I mean, it's when you really watch a human being walk around and you think about what's going on, it's amazing, So to be able to get that, to be in that presence of mind, and just take, take on like all the small things and the beauty and things. I think it's good, but I don't mind the stunt work. When I was on Bond, I was only performing 1 day a week, so there's a lot of waiting for me. But it was a great experience. I got to spend a lot of time in Turkey, in Istanbul, and we did some amazing stunts. I got to work with a great team of professionals there. So it was an awesome experience. I actually love it. I love doing that stuff. But I'm not focused on the film work too much, just because it takes a lot of the guys I know who are in that position are divorced, So I don't want to go down that road. And I want to be for my kids. And I'm very fortunate that I'm able to, create work for myself. I'm not relying on someone else to create work for me. I'm able to think of new ideas all the time and figure out the path to make them have some value to them and get a budget off someone. So I was just recently actually back in Istanbul last week doing a commercial for an ice cream company, which was awesome and another great experience. But it's I'm very fortunate to be able to travel around and do different stunts in different places. So in a perfect world, I'd like to do, half the year doing some film work and half the year doing my own stuff, but it kind of doesn't work like that. You're either part of a crew or you're not part of a crew, because it's like, it's a privilege to be a part of a crew like that. And someone like me that wants to kind of have the cake and eat it too, they don't really take too much of a liking to people like that. So I'm working on a new invention, and I really want to see that come to the light of day. It's been my ultimate dream as a kid growing up to do this next feat, and it's always was something that everyone said is impossible to do and never going to happen. And that's why we don't listen to those people that say that. You follow your dream, and
makes you want to.
Yeah. So I'm excited for it. I'm like really got some important meetings next week to try and bring it together, and I think it's going to happen in the next year or so. It's super exciting for me.
Are you allowed to talk about it yet, or you hold them back?
Yeah, I don't really want to spill the beans on it.
Totally understand.
2 reasons. I don't want someone copying me, and I don't want to, to talk out of my butt and not have it happen. There's a lot of hurdles to go over, a lot of obstacles to navigate. I've already been trying to get this going for some time, and I've already had a lot of doors closed in my face. So now we're kind of restructuring and figuring out how to make it happen. And I told my team, I said, this isn't about whether someone's going to fund it or not. I'm going to do this. I've set my mind to it. This is going to happen, and even if I pay out of my own pocket, I'm going to do it. And obviously I'm trying to avoid that situation. I'd like to try and, make some money out of it, but I'm excited. I think the world's going to love it. And, it's something that I've wanted to see my whole life. So I'm excited to be the person doing it.
We'd love to have you back when you get it done.
Yeah, man, let's do it for sure. I'd love to talk more in depth of it, but
totally understand. Now, one of your world records was when you jumped the football field, right? That was intense.
Yeah, that's it's a dangerous jump. There's a young kid who tried to go after my record just recently, Axel Hodges, and he wasn't able to beat it. And I actually spoke to him during it, and I said, hey, man, like, I wouldn't recommend this jump to my best friend or my worst enemy. I'm like, it's not a pleasant jump. I'm like, I've already jumped it to the extreme of it, and I shattered my wheel, and it could have killed me. I got super lucky, and I told his team, I was just like, the chances of something going wrong are so high. And so ultimately he had a scare, when he was out almost at the record distance. And that's just what happens, when you jump in the bike that far at that speed with that kind of that energy going on, you have the harmonic balancing of the wheels and the inertia of the engine. And obviously you're traveling forward, you got the wind on your face, so your body's kind of like a foil, and any change of direction your body can upset the flight. And then what happens to Axel, and what's happened to me in the past too, is you hit the back brake to correct the flight. When you hit the back brake, the inertia of the rear wheel stops, so the front end comes down, it rotates around the rear wheel. But then as you're traveling on your trajectory, you get higher, and as you drop down, now the back end drops away. And so that's what happened to him. He kind of corrected the wheel early on, the back wheel slowed down, and as he went over the apex of his arc and dropped away. As he dropped away, the rear end of the bike just falls away. And so you have this perfect flight for 90% of the flight, and the last 10%, the bike just wants to do a backflip. And it's something that you don't, Axel's an amazing, incredible rider, and I'm not here to, downplay him. I think that he's probably more talented than I am. He's done some stuff that I haven't done, and he's amazing to watch. But it's just one of those things that you don't feel the mechanics of this happening until you get out at this distance and that speed. And when you're doing a jump at, over 100 mile an hour and, almost 400 feet long, when something goes wrong, it can cost you your life. So it's, so fortunately enough, I still have the record, but yeah, the football field jump was really special to me. I've done a couple more since then. And I think in the future, I'm going to revisit that space for sure. I definitely want to take a motorcycle further.
Now, how much do you need to know about aerodynamics, physics, or mechanics when you jump like this? Or is it just out of practice, it's just natural instinct and corrections?
I think the more you know, the better, for sure. I mean, I work with physicists to figure these things out. I don't, and a lot of the stuff that I work out with the physicist, I actually knew it anyway, but I need to see it proved and need to be reminded of it too. Yeah. And once you get reminded of it, you realize the importance of it. So I would have overlooked a lot of the the equations and a lot of the things going on if I hadn't have had an expert's opinion. So I think it's really it's a complex mathematical equation, and it's probably not super complex, but the complexity is in like, you know, the physical side of it. You know, once you start jumping, and you realize that your body is like, you know, the surface of your body. If one arm's longer than the other arm, and your chest is like a little bit tweaked, it's going to put you into a sideways rotation. So, you know, the deal with the motorcycle and doing the jumps that I do, it's not designed to do it, you know. So
yeah,
that's the biggest. Hey, sorry, I got one of the kids here at the door. That's the biggest issue with doing those jumps, is you're doing something on a tool that's not designed for it. And any great craftsman knows that's just stupid. You know, you don't use a pair of pliers as a hammer, although people do, but you wreck your pliers, and you risk wrecking your job as well. So that's kind of what we're doing. You know, we're flying this massive jump on something that's not designed to fly, but it's exciting, and it's you know, it's a rush for sure, and it definitely gets the cogs working for me for sure, and it's definitely doing all that stuff that I've done in the past has helped me, you know, get the outlook I have for what's coming tomorrow.
What type of modifications do you make to the bike to at least help it along a little bit, or at least keep it in one piece at the end of the day?
The suspension's super critical. You know, it's all about getting a softer touchdown, because once you fly that far, the landing becomes like really brutal.
Yeah.
What I did in the past, though, is I made the suspension too stiff, so it actually kind of went into a hydraulic lock. And my suspension, when I landed, my suspension didn't go all the way through the travel. It kind of went almost all the way through the travel, and then it hydraulically locked, and that put all the energy into the wheel, and that's why my wheel exploded, is because my suspension was too stiff. So if my suspension had been a little bit softer, and it had gone all the way down to the stop, and then that energy had then gone into the wheel, it probably the energy wouldn't have transferred so violently, and I probably wouldn't have destroyed the wheel like it did. So, you know, it's really important to have super strong wheels. They have to be balanced, you know, before you jump. The suspension needs to be done, and then obviously you want the gnarliest motor you can get. I mean, it's all about your top end speed. So I changed my gearing. I think my ratio was something like 15-43. So 15 on the front sprocket and 43 on the rear. And that's, I mean, it's hard pressed to take off. You almost need a push start to get going in first gear. It's so long geared, but you need it. You know, you need a long run up, and but they're the main things: just the suspension, the gearing, the engine itself, and then your wheels.
Now, when you do your speed laps, like I saw when you did your jump in Vegas, what goes through your mind there? What are you preparing for? Are you listening to the bike, you feeling it, or is it more mental, or both?
No, so I'm running out. Initially, when I start doing it, I run past the ramp, and I'm focusing on the ramp, and I'm focusing on the landing, and I'm trying to feel that gut feeling to tell me when I have the right speed or not. So, you know, you can use a physicist to tell you, like, all right, at this angle, at this speed, you're going to jump this far.
Right.
Not always accurate, because it doesn't take into account the losses. It's just calculating like a ball in a vacuum, essentially. So once you add all the losses, it's not really super accurate. I have had an evolving equation, so it kind of gives you the base number of what would happen in a perfect scenario, and then as you jump further and further, it records that, and it kind of it tweaks the algorithm, so it kind of starts calculating more to what's happening in real time. But essentially, like when I do the run-ins, I'm just gauging the distance and that I have enough speed. And then once I get to a certain distance, then I'm trying to, like, I do more run-ins just to make sure I have got the right speed. Because, like, what I'll do is I'll turn around at a certain point, and that'll be marked. Where I turn around, I'll mark it. Usually just with my back tire, do a little burnout, so I know where my mark is. Right. And then, you know, nothing too scientific or professional here. But then, it works. It works. Then I take off, and then I'm going all the way to the perfect curve of my rev range and doing a perfect gear change. So I'm not letting the revs die off. It's like always just a building rev curve. And so I go up to the revs until I get into the top gear. And so if you do that wrong or right, that initial run up, it can be 10 mile an hour's difference at the end compared to a good one and a bad one. And that could be your life and death. So it's really critical. That's why I do it so many times, is to like make sure I've got the shifting points perfect. And then holding on to my speed. And then we usually know what speed I need to hit, so that I have my buddy there, the radar gun, and I'll come back and I'm like, you know, and we're like, yeah, you would have made it that time, or we'll be like, no, you would have died that time. So we just do that to like we get three like you would have made it in a row, and then I go. And then once I jump that distance, then I'll jump that distance and usually land in the sweet spot, and then I'll go a little bit further back. Like I'll go back like another 15 to 20 feet further back and do a run up the same. And then just knowing that a good run up from the shorter distance would land me in the sweet spot, I'll take a bit of a longer run in, and then that should send me a bit further down the landing. And once I land further down the landing, and I try to overshoot it by like, you know, 20 to 30 feet. And then I know, all right, now I'm doing it that run in from this distance. Now I can move my ramp back, and I know that I'll be safe.
Right.
And then again, once the ramp comes back, then I'll do the test runs to make sure I have got that right exit speed. And we just kind of keep moving it back like that.
Do you switch bikes for every stunt, or do you have one type of bike that you use and just adjust for what you're doing?
Yeah, I switch them out. Like for the distance world record jumps, in the past I used to use a 500 two-stroke. Then I went to the 450. And now I generally use a 450 for everything I do. But, you know, in the past I was on a two-stroke 250. I think that's the best bike for freestyle motocross. But now I'm not trying to be the best in the world at freestyle motocross, so I don't use the best tool for that job. I use like what I'm most comfortable on. So I ride the 450, and I use that now pretty much for everything. But you know, even riding the motorcycle on the water, the 450 actually works a lot better than two-stroke. So I used to use the two-stroke at the start for that, but I've used a lot of different bikes. But now, like, yeah, I mean, I use a 450 pretty much for everything. There's going to be some stuff that I'll do in the future where I'm going to, you know, put in some different engines and, you know, try and increase my performance. It's always better to go faster when you're trying to jump distances.
For sure. But how the hell do you ride a bike on water and no less surf with it? I read that you did it, and then I saw you do it, and it's astonishing, man.
Thank you.
Where'd that even come from, too? Just the thought of doing it, no less being able to do it.
So the idea came when I was a kid. I used to surf a lot. I used to surf every day as a kid. Like for 10 years, I surfed every single day, every morning. So I grew up surfing, and you know, in the afternoons, if the surf wasn't good, I'd go for a ride on my BMX bike, and I'd ride up to the headland, and then we had a bunch of jumps up there, and I'd overlook the ocean and the beach, and you'd see the waves coming in, rolling in. And I used to always fantasize up there by myself and be like, oh, it'd be so cool if you could jump those waves, because you see all these like jump rolls going down. I'm like, oh, if you could jump like between them, it'd be so cool. And I remember one day I said to my dad, like, oh, it'd be so cool to make the motorbike ride on the water so you could jump the jumps. He's like, that's what a jet ski is. You can't ride a motorcycle on water, and that'll never happen. I'm like, but maybe you could one day. And he's like, no, you can't. And I'm like, but it might be possible. And he's like, shut up, Robbie. And I was like, all right, you know. And then one day I was watching my brother-in-law wakeboard, and I was watching him like wake surf behind the boat. And I was looking at him thinking, it's trying to tell me something. Like, I'm watching the water. I'm like, the water's coming out. It's flowing. He let go of the handle. He's just surfing it. He's on the board. And I'm like just fantasizing about it. And then I was just like, had that aha moment, you know. I was like, ding. I was like, oh, fuck, I can ride. And I just looked at my wife. I go, I can ride my motorbike on the water. And she's like, what? I go, I know how to do it now. And I just got inspired watching him wakeboard. I just realized that if I put a ski under the back and a ski under the front and have him sticking through a little bit, have a big paddle tire, I'm like, if it's wide enough, it's got enough surface area, it's going to stay on top of the water. So
it's genius, like, man. It's genius.
Yeah, I just realized that it could happen. I just had to figure out how to make it stay under there. But I had that kind of epiphany, and then from there, we made it work. And the first one we did was too narrow, so we just increased the surface area, and the next day it worked great. And then I swapped from that bike to another bike, and then it got really complex because I had a situation where I kept losing my momentum. I couldn't make it maintain the speed on the water. It kept getting slower, progressively slower.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually I figured out why, and it was just a mathematical problem, and figured that out and rectified that, and now it works like a charm. So I'm really right in front of me the whole time. It took me a while to figure it out because I had, people come down who were like, the guy who invented wakeboarding came out and checked it out with me.
Mm-hmm.
Another guy who invented the air chair, the foil air chair, who's Mike Murphy, he came out. Jimmy Redmond, he's the inventor of wakeboarding, he came out. I had a lot of great thinkers there, and that's my philosophy, is always like get around the best people who are the most knowledgeable to learn from them. And so I had some of these guys, out of the box thinkers who are inventors in their own right, come out and look. And it was funny because although they had the great advice of how to like take the steps to figure out what's going on, but no one could sit there and be like, oh, that's wrong. This is where it's going wrong, because it's like a dual hull thing, right? But Mike, everyone had some great advice for me. Mike Murphy helped me tweak my design. Jimmy Redmond helped me kind of like figure out how to test to kind of like figure out what the wrong thing is, by kind of not trying to change too many things at one time. And I just got so stuck on thinking that the problem was the design of the ski, but it wasn't really the design of the ski. It was more of it was the design of the ski, but it wasn't the design part I thought about. But anyway, eventually I packed it all up. I was sick of it. I was sick of looking at it. I couldn't figure it out. I put it all away. And about 6 months later, I pulled it all back out. And this had happened like 4 or 5 times. I pulled it out and banged my head against the wall and couldn't figure it out. And then 6 months later, I'd call my friend that was helping me and say, hey, you want to try and tackle this again? Sure. Would pull it out again. And then that way we went back and forth. And then it wasn't until I got rid of my friend, it was kind of like, kept putting me on the bumps, or like confusing me, and having an input that wasn't really productive. And so I went in a different direction. And then I was actually on the movie set for Triple X Returns with Vin Diesel, and they had really pitched, the whole film was about this scene with the motorbike riding on the water. It was a really big part of the film. And I built the bike prior to going there, and we'd been playing with designs and really critical. And we had it to a point where I was happy with it. It wasn't perfect, but I was happy with it. And when I got onto the set, my mechanic who I ended up getting rid of, he went out there to be with the bike to make sure that they didn't screw up the design. When I got out there, they'd been gone for a month. I got out there, they changed the complete design. I'm like, what are you guys doing? This won't work. And this guy come down and he's like, I'm a rocket engineer and I'm a scientist and blah, blah. And, what I kept repeating that he's an engineer and all this stuff. But he's like, this is going to work, blah, blah. I said, how many times have you built a bike that rides in the water? And he's like, I was like, exactly. I said, the reason why I was designed the way it was is because that's what works. I'm like, I can tell right now by looking at your design, it's not going to work. You've got this strut here, you got that there, this. I'm like, it's not going to work. He's like, well, let's just see. He's like, I'm an engineer, and you're not. So let's just see whose works, the engineers or the backyard guy. And sure enough, his didn't work, and the backyard guy's one worked. And so I was actually, kind of got rid of that guy out of the scene. He was still on the set because he was head of like one of the departments there. But I just got him to kind of step back a bit. And it was actually one night the bikes kept failing, and when different guys got, like, I could ride the bike, but not everyone on set could, because we needed like 4 guys to ride these bikes. And so I could make it work, but the other guys couldn't. But I had more of a feel and more of a touch for the traction, and not letting the wheel cavitate. But I eventually was looking at it one night, and I just realized what was up. And we came down, and I was up at the hotel and thinking about looking at footage, and I was like, had that aha moment, and came down when we tweaked the design. And that's changed like the way it's set up, just even to today. Like, it's the most critical point of setting it up is what I realized. And once we figured that part out, then it wasn't the skis, it was just like how they were mounted, really. So we just we rectified that, and now it works great. So it's exciting. I'm tweaking the design. Like, I rode it last week in Turkey, and it's like it runs so good. It does, like, the jet ski can't even keep up with me. I mean,
Really?
I outrun the jet. Yeah, and I can go all the way to fifth gear, and I can slow all the way down to second gear, and I can ride around in second gear on the water, and I can power back up to sixth gear, up to fifth gear again.
Man, no, it's genius.
It's really,
It's absolute genius.
it's not the most environmental friendly craft that there is, but it's just a step in the evolution of this thing, and
Yeah.
I'm going to supersede the design here in the next little bit. So hopefully the next design will be a bit more appealing, and it won't get so much criticism.
I love it. I matter of fact, I was watching it with my wife, and no less, she's from the Amazon rainforest, so she's only been up in New York for the past 2 years, and so
Wow.
this to see a motorcycle riding on the water, we're sitting there watching it, and in amazement, and at the same time laughing our asses off, because it seemed fake. Yeah, it just didn't seem
Right.
it just defied all physics, man.
Yeah.
Now, have you ever gone on a jump
Yeah.
where you were not 100% prepared for, or if not that the conditions were not good, but not that bad to where you decided to do it anyway?
Yeah, it happened when I was in Greece. I was jumping the Corinth Canal, and the conditions weren't good. And this is the part that is really critical, and it will save your life. You have to listen to your gut instinct, and I've learned from a shaman on how to have a connection with your soul and ask your soul critical questions and listen to its answer. And so whenever you're not sure on something, you have the ability to ask your soul a yes or no question and listen. And, if the energy is positive, you'll feel like the energy going up. And if it's a negative answer, you'll feel the energy going down. And so I used that as a tool to ask my soul whether I should jump the motorcycle on the day I was meant to jump. If it had been up to me, I'm the type of person that doesn't want to let people down. But my shaman also warned me of this nature of mine. He said, because this will kill you if you have this. He said, you have to learn to say no, and you need to know when enough's enough, and you need to not do these things for the wrong reasons. So that really resonated with me when he told me that. And then I used that new skill to, the wind was up. We had, incorrect marked fuel. There was a lot of writing on the wall that I shouldn't do. I could feel the energy was off. I asked my soul, should I jump today? And it said no, like multiple times. I kept asking all the time. It kept no. And then I'd ask it a yes answer just to see what a yes answer felt like. And just say, is my motorcycle behind me? Yes, it is. Should I jump my motorcycle over this gap today? No, you shouldn't. So I was like, all right. So I kept asking it yes and no questions to realize I'm just getting 100% no's. I shouldn't do this. So I actually didn't do the jump. It's the first time I've never done a jump on the time I meant to, and I got booed by the crowd, but I said, hey, I'm going to do it tomorrow. And the next day, it was blue skies, clear skies. There was not a breath of wind. It was perfect condition. I asked my soul, is today good to jump? And it was all yes. So we pulled it off. But if I had gone that day before, I think you have to jump when everything's in alignment, when your energy, the universe, we're all we're all electrical energy, right? And if your frequency's off, then everything's off. So you gotta even when skydiving, I was jumping out of the plane the other day, and I just felt a little bit spooked. The military stopped jumping because it was too windy. And when the military stops jumping, then you should probably take note of that. And there's some guys that were still going to jump, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to shut it down. And but I've lost some of my friends who have they've jumped in situations where they've been like, I don't like the wind and I don't like the ramp. That ramp feels weird, and they still ride and go ahead regardless, even though they've identified 5 different things of why they shouldn't do it. They still their ego takes over, or whatever you want to call it, but something takes over and forces them to do it when they've already identified that things aren't right, and that's the thing that'll take you down. So I'm lucky that I've been able to pay attention to that and grasp that concept and put it into play, and it keeps me alive, man.
Isn't it great? Isn't it great having a shaman?
It's amazing.
My wife's a 3rd generation shaman, and it's funny you mentioned shamans, because when we were watching your stuff, she was saying how amazing it was. I said, but honey, I do a lot of the stuff he does, but it's in my brain after drinking ayahuasca. So that's as far as I'm going to take it, man.
Yeah, I mean, I did the DMT, dimethyltryptamine, the 5-MeO DMT. I went back to as a baby. I relived all these traumatic experiences in my life, and I finally came to the conclusion. I just saw the physics right. I saw the geometric patterns, and then I realized that the jump I was trying to do on the building and off the building was totally possible. Because up until that point, I hadn't had any signs that it was possible. I was listening to everyone's fear about it. And doing the DMT really allowed me to realize that it is possible. If I have the right speed, the right angle, ramp, then anything's possible with the right speed and the right angle as far as jumping goes. So, so I came to that realization and was super excited, and that's what really kind of got me through doing it. And it obviously changed the way I look. It really allows me to see the beauty in everything. You know, I can look at a butterfly flying around a plant and be overwhelmed by it, and you know, you grow up and you get used to that stuff, and you stop seeing the beauty in the small things. And it's so important to, like, you know, my son the other day, oh, I'm so bored, there's nothing to do. And I'm like, you're the wrong kid to say you're bored, man. You have every single toy anyone could imagine. You have a half pipe in your backyard, a motorcycle track, trampolines, every toy you mentioned, you know, everything. But I'm like, let's come, like, he's like I was as a kid, you know, he's not awakened yet, but he'll get there. But he's still in that child mode, you know, just playing bashful. It's good to let it be.
Yeah, I have a 12-year-old, and it's the same thing. You know, we're out all the time. I have, you know, the wild animals. I have the snakes, and do all this stuff that most kids are just like, oh man, you know, I want to hang out with you. Want to hang out with you. And my son's like, yeah, what's the big deal, man? Yeah.
Yeah. They just kind of grown up with it, and they're just conditioned with it, and they just don't see it right.
Yeah. So you mentioned your wife before. How does she take a lot of this? Because I know a lot of the videos I've seen of you, she's pretty stressed on game day for you. So how's she handling it?
She stresses hard, but she's also very present thinker. You know, she's very present. So I can calm her down a lot. She just gets worked up. She cares a lot, you know, and she doesn't want anything bad to happen. But she lets me go skydiving. She said to me a few years ago, "There's no way you're ever skydiving," and now I do it every day. And she's cool with it. So, you know, I just had to warm her up, right.
Yeah.
But she was a professional athlete herself. She was a wakeboard champion back in the day. So,
very cool.
Yeah, she was a wakeboard champion back in the day. So it's she's kind of used to it. You know, she's grown up in the similar industry and watched her brother become world champion and helped her brother out. And she moved to America when she was younger as a professional wakeboarder. And so she gets it, and she understands, you know, the goals, that I'm a goal-orientated person. And, you know, I'll tell her what I want to do, and I'll explain how it's going to work. And she sees it. She doesn't doubt me, that's for sure. But she does the stressing for me. And I'm usually there just trying to calm her down before I go and do the crazy thing.
Now, do you have issues with breaking through that fear barrier before your stunt, or are you just so intensely focused on it, it's not there?
Yeah, I used to have it. I used to struggle with it a lot, especially as a kid. You know, you get that lump in your throat, and your chest tightens up, and your stomach's got butterflies, and you feel horrible. You just want to vomit. You just want to stop. You know, you just want to change, and you want to jump into a time portal and go somewhere else. But we all go through that. I think honestly, I just done my 10,000 hours there, kind of like dealing with that stuff. And now I'm like, I definitely have built a relationship with the fear. And, you know, it's obviously it came to that point, like when I jumped onto the on and off the building. Oh, well, actually when I jumped, I was on and off the building. And the lead up to that, you know, those things really resonated with me, but jumping on and off the building was the main one. Like I always had the fear doing those distance jumps, but I was confident enough in myself because I'd done a lot of big jumps that I was able to like kind of push past the fear and back myself in and know that I had it and be able to be like, no, you've got this, and then all of a sudden just switch that off and just go and do it. And then I just tell myself, I'd be like, fuck it, you only live once, and this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm doing. So it's simple as that. I'd turn off and go. But nowadays, like, you know, I'm mentally prepared for it. I try not to take risks that are undue, but I still I'm still like not fearful to take a risk that I feel like I'm worthy of taking. And, I remember being up 70 feet up in the air, looking down at my son. I was about to jump off this crane. The crane's holding a shipping container. And we're up 70 feet in the air. And I'm about to ride off the end of this crane and drop down into this ramp, and totally like could have killed you. It was a super sketchy jump, but I pulled it off. No sweat. And I thought I had a picture here behind me, but it's somewhere else. But yeah, I jumped down there. I pulled it off, no problem. And, I just said, I remember looking down as my son's 2 years old, playing with these toy cars in the sand. I'm thinking, why the hell am I up here doing this? And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. Because this is what I dreamed for. This is what I wanted when I was a kid. And now I have the opportunity to do it. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to back out now just because of fear. And I'm like, my whole journey of life has wanted to get to this point. So now I'm here. I have to have the courage to push through. Right. And if something does go wrong at this point, well, then I know that my journey may have been off. Maybe I've thought of the wrong thing, but I really felt like that was the right moment to let go of the fear and just trust in the universe, and that I put the hard work in. I've created this situation. I'm on the world stage here. It's the platform that I've always wanted. It's different if you're at a mate's party and everyone's, drunk going, come on, pussy, do it. Like, that's probably the time to not do it. But, when you're on the world stage and you got some of the biggest brands in the industry backing you and you're planning for it, and you got safety and everything's on point, then you get the fear in you. That's when you got to like sack up and be like, you know what? And you just have to have that courage and that self-belief, and back yourself in and know that you've done the homework, you've done it all right, and go for it. So
with what I've seen you do, I just love the precision. Your landings are right on, sometimes even comfortably over. But of course, there's a downside to all of this. And so I'm sure there was accidents. And what are some of the most substantial accidents you've had?
Well, I've actually had just traumatic impact syndrome. So I've had multiple traumatic impacts that have stopped my heart. So I've actually been like clinically dead 4 or 5 times. And so I'm like lucky to be here. But I punctured both lungs. I've snapped my wrist, snapped my legs, broken collarbones, shoulder blades, broken ribs. I've dislocated my shoulder multiple times, broken my wrist, snapped my leg, done the ligaments in my knee, snapped my ACL a couple of times, and then all the head injuries and broken fingers. And I mean, I've always got skin off my body. I've got skin off me right now. But yeah, just a lot of brutal impacts. Probably the most dangerous and scary one was a BMX crash I had in the front yard, and I had a big head injury, and I actually died here at the house, and they revived me, and then they paddled my chest and got me going again, and then I was on life support for a week, and I woke up after that one, and I kind of couldn't really remember too much about anything, so I had to get all my memories back and my thoughts back and learn my vocabulary again. But head injuries are no joke. They definitely play a big toll on you. I've had a lot of them, but I've probably one of the worst ones you can have, as far as like, broken bones heal, but head injuries can change who you think you are and change your happiness. And then depression kicks in. You get very, in a very dark place. And I've been there myself, and, I'm trying to be an advocate for it and try and help people with mental health. Mental health is like one of the biggest things right now that we need to focus on, and drug addiction. And so I'm working on because people, when they get dark like that, they turn to drugs because it makes them feel better. They get a big dopamine hit or something like that. And then after, the drugs wear off, then you feel worse than you felt before. And then the depression kicks in, and it's an endless cycle that just kind of spirals downwards. And then eventually you get you get a little bit up and you do some drugs and you slide back down. And then it just gets to the point where you're so dark and deep that, suicide feels like the easiest option. And that's really what I'm trying to be an advocate for, to try and help people realize when they're on a path like that and help them get off that path, because, doing more drugs ain't going to make it feel better, even if the social element might feel comfortable while you're social. But when you go home, you get dark. It's like, it's really a bad spot. So
Yeah.
I didn't want to just talk about this topic and not have anything to do with it. So that's what I've been working on recently. I'm actually in the midst of putting together our own drug rehabilitation place, a detox center, and a day, also an outpatient place, as well as like counselors for mental health and stuff like that. I'm putting together a whole package with 3 different centers. I'm working on it with a friend of mine. So hopefully we'll have this off the ground here running soon, so we can, not only talk about it, but offer a path to get people back on track. I've lost a lot of friends from this, so it's something that I want to, it's definitely my long-term goal is now to do this. Obviously, I had this long-term goal of being this Evel Knievel type character, and I've done that. And the next stage of my life is going to be helping people out, getting back on track, getting the mental health right, showing people how to live life and have a great time.
Mm-hmm.
And that you don't need drugs, and it's all about having good nutrition, good rest, and have as much fun as you can during the day, laugh as much as you can,
Exactly.
and do the stuff you love, and then go to bed at night time tired, because you had so much fun.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I'm a big advocate of ayahuasca. I developed a TV series called Amazon Detox, but I've seen just sea changes in people with just 1 or 2 visits with ayahuasca, of really rewiring the brain, kind of separating those connections of triggers that get people either depressed or to use and everything. And it's just, seeing astronomical results from it.
Yeah, I mean, I see it too. Like, people get stuck just thinking negative thoughts, and if you let that negative thought keep going, it's like a seed that you water, right? The tree grows.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you keep thinking negatively, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And you got to see the positive side in things. Even if they are bad, still try and draw a positive from it. And if someone's done you wrong, think, at least positive side of it is that person's out of my life now. You always got to draw a positive rather than dwell on the negative side of it.
And I've never ever failed pulling out a positive from some negative situation.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah. No, I feel you, man. I feel you for sure.
That's commendable. That's really cool, Robbie, what you're doing there. And the opioid crisis we have here in the United States now, it is so vital to have more places like you.
Yeah, and that's what we're really targeting towards, is the opioids and methamphetamines and heroin, all those harder drugs that really mess people up, cocaine.
Yeah.
And even legalizing weed. I think that people are going to get into psychosis with the weed, because I've seen so many people in just in my lifetime of friends of mine who are heavy pot smokers. Changes people, changes the way they think. Changes the way changes their motivation. They don't call it dope for no reason, It makes you fucking dopey. It can be used in the right place, but anything. I think there's probably good uses for it, but anything that you abuse is going to be, negative for you.
Yeah, I've seen weed do wonders for people, but done responsibly and rather microdosing or minute amounts. But then the abuse of it, it's the cliche of dope.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I've used it before, and I know that when you have a little bit, it's good. But if you keep need more and more and more, and you do that daily, and then how much you have grows and grows and grows, and then before you know it, you're smoking all day, and then it just leaves you kind of in a tailspin. You don't know, whether you're coming or going, and you forget your wallet. You forget your wallet. You put your phone down. You can't find your phone. You got to ring it to find it. You can't find your car keys. The only thing you can remember is your McDonald's order.
And clearly, you using it, you would not ever be able to do the things that you do.
Yeah, no, I've used dope a lot, in my life, but it's one thing, I was doing, and it's all a journey, right? You're figuring out your path, and I know now that I'm better off without it. But for a while, used it as a coping mechanism because my mental noise was strong, and and I felt agitated, and I felt under pressure, and friends of mine are dying, and I'm still this kid with this big dream, and I'm feeling frustrated, and I'm feeling like I'm not moving forwards at the pace I want to go, and he's like, smoking weed because it makes you calm down, and but it's also, you got to although it calms you down, it also makes you stop progressing on getting the little things done that need to happen to make what you want to come true. So
it dims that fire.
all in balance, right? Yeah.
You set world records, you broke world records. Are there any world records now that you'd say, well, you know what, I'm not even going to try to break that? It's a little bit too much.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. Like a couple of my buddies are like right into they're right into like quarter pipe, hitting the quarter pipe at X Games. It's a big, I used to be the guy that went the biggest on quarter pipe, and I never competed at X Games with it, but had it been around back in the day, I would have had a lot of gold medals. But you know, a lot of those things I'm just leaving for those younger guys now. I mean, part of me wants to still do it, but I'm just letting it go. There's a lot of stuff I feel like I'm capable of, but it's like choosing which fight you want to fight, right? And it's like which path you want to walk down. And I'm more here for the scenic route these days. So I'm kind of there's stuff I'm leaving on the table for sure, but there's some, my distance world record jump. I definitely want to kind of mess with that a little bit more, just because I have a vision of how I want to change it, and so I want to do that. But other than that, like the other stuff I'm doing is just like I'm creating new world records because I'm making stuff that's never been done before, and just I love that journey of like figuring out stuff that hasn't been done before, because it's the ultimate in exploration. There's no one that's got the answers. You're a pioneer. You're figuring it out yourself. It's so exciting. I love it.
Yeah. Now, speaking, you said that you want to take the scenic route. Now, is that possible for you in your day-to-day life? Say, can you just like take your motorcycle to the supermarket, to the dentist, without people pointing or expecting you to do something crazy? Or can you stay pretty much anonymous?
Yeah, I'd stay pretty. I mean, I get noticed around town here, but I ride around on an Indian. It's like a big bagger. It's got the big bags and the big shield on the front. So the wind blows over me.
Oh, nice.
And that's me taking the scenic route. I'm not on some like high powered street bike popping wheelies all around the corners. I'm just like, I got the stereo on, I'm just cruising, got the wind in the hair, just loving life, man. Just I'm a slower guy. I'm not moving fast, like as opposed to the traffic trying to stay alive out there, because it's not a racetrack. But I will go to the racetrack and jump on a 1000 and haul ass around the track for sure. But like when I was younger, I'd get around like really what's the word? Irresponsibly and ride like a maniac on the public roads. But it's a good way to get yourself killed. You just never know who's coming around the next corner. So I mean, I've had some scares, and I know people that have died that way. So it's like I've learned that lesson. But yeah, I mean, we live in a great place here. I'm able to kind of like, if I wanted to, I can drive my golf cart down to Starbucks.
Whereabouts are you now?
We're in Southern California, in Temecula.
Nice.
So I'm in the wine country, Temecula, but we live really close to the housing tracks, and there's a Barron's and a CVS and Starbucks and stuff down the road. So I got a little back track through the neighborhoods and dirt track that kind of pops out at Starbucks, which is fun to go for an early morning scoop. But that was more when I was younger. Nowadays, I'm like, I don't want to run that risk. I'd rather just take the van down there and get it.
Well, that's it. It's no matter how good you are on a motorcycle, you got to worry about everybody else.
Exactly. Yeah. I might be pulling the perfect wheel stand, and someone just doesn't see me and pulls out, and then next minute you're dead.
Yeah.
So you leave. You got to pick and choose when you want to be the hero, and usually you got to plan for it. So that's what I've learned. You got to wait till the coast is clear before you try any of this crazy stuff. And I used to be the guy that would like rip around roads and drive my car uber fast around and doing burnouts and stuff. And the police took my car off me. I lost my license. I paid the price. And the only way you're going to get over it is to do enough burnouts where you can't afford tires anymore and realize this doesn't make sense, Or you blow your gearbox or snap your diff or something.
That's great. Well, you know what? If you're ever thinking of a new stunt, as I said, I live in between New York and the Amazon. I think you should jump the Amazon River.
I'd love to go down the Amazon, man. You have no idea. I'd love to, come and do one of these medicine things with you too. That'd be really cool.
I've got it there for 15 years. As I said, my wife's a shaman, and we'd be there right now if I wasn't stuck up with COVID here in New York.
Yeah.
So, anytime you want, and we do private trips. So it's not like you'd go and you'd have another 15 other people following us. We do private trips, and it's an immersion where we live like right in the village. Not exactly, like it's like a 2-3 minute walk to the village. So you have your privacy, but when you want to hang out and play soccer and play basketball, play volleyball with the locals and fish for piranha and swim at pink dolphins and all that.
I'd love to, Rusty. Let's figure that out. I'd like to figure out how I can get someone else to pay for that trip and come down and film all that and document it. Great.
Sounds perfect to me. Well, listen, Robbie, I know you're busy and you got a lot of fun stuff to do today. But thanks so much, man. Buddy, you have a good one. Great talking to you.
A DaVinci life.